We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. To find out correct action, right action, accurate action, there must be care. Hello and welcome to episode 243 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast features carefully chosen extracts from the archives. The aim is to represent different aspects of Krishnamurti's radical approach to many of the issues and questions we all face in our lives. This week's theme is care. Upcoming themes are not knowing, the self, and concentration. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in Hampshire, UK. Brockwood is also home to Brockwood Park School, a unique international boarding school offering a personalised, holistic education. It is deeply inspired by Krishnamurti's teaching, which encourages academic excellence, self-understanding, creativity and integrity. Please visit brockwood.org.uk for more information. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This helps our visibility. This week's episode on care has 5 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's first talk in Bombay 1964 and is titled Care, a Little Word with Deep Meaning.
Life is a relationship. To live in this world, you must be related. Otherwise, you can't exist in isolation. To be related means also cooperation. Cooperation, that is working together. You cannot work together if one dominates the other. If one has a particular idea and forcing the other to accept it. Cooperation can only exist when there is real affection, sympathy, pity, a sense of togetherness, which doesn't exist at all in this country. Ideologically, yes, that is, in the sense of words, that we must work together, that we are brothers, that there is one life, all that nonsense that we repeat endlessly. But actually, factually, in every moment of our life, it doesn't exist. So, we don't know what it means to cooperate. We know what it means to cooperate with the state, from which we are going to gain a livelihood, or with an idea for a utopia, because that's going to profit us. Or we know cooperation under authority, which is compulsion, conformity. But we're talking about cooperation which is entirely different. That is, cooperation comes only when you care. care, which is a very simple word, but which has a very deep meaning, to care for somebody, to care for a tree, for a bird. Because we do not care. If there was this sense of caring, please, I'm not moralizing. We must leave that to the politicians. But I'm merely pointing out to you how important it is to live in this world with care. To care for the room in which you are living. To care how you eat, what your behavior, what your manners are. Please, I'm going to go into this, because if you don't understand the meaning of this word care, care how you dress, how you talk, what your gestures are, how you treat your neighbor, how you look at another, how you educate your children, to care. Because from that sense of caring, there comes sympathy, there comes affection. And you can go with that, ride on that affection, and you will know what love is. But if you have not that sense of caring from the very beginning, how you use the word, how you speak to another, don't brush all this aside and say, yes, we know all this. We have heard this, we have read about it, we have listened to this thing that we must love another 100,000 times. But we are stating something which is truth. If you don't understand truth in that little word and listen to that word and understand it, because that word means being sensitive. You know, to be sensitive to another, to be sensitive to the skies, to the birds, to the trees, to the beauty of a sunset, the sun on a lovely cloud. If you're not sensitive to that, completely, vulnerably, you will never know what love is. You may have married, you may have children, you may have relations, but you'll have no love. And that is the very beginning of reality, is at the first step, that is to care.
The second extract is from Krishnamurti's third talk in New Delhi 1963 and is titled, "To See is to Care."
Because you are the world. You have to act. You have to think, you have to feel. In a world that is undergoing tremendous changes, that is made corrupt by the politicians and by the religious people. I am using the word religious in the wrong sense of the word. That is made ugly by the saints, by this organized religious dogmas, beliefs. Those are not religious people at all. This world is made ugly by them, and we live in that world. And we have to understand that world. And to understand, you must observe. And observation is not the world outside you, because the world outside you is the you inside as world, the observer. There is no division between the world and you. You are the world. So, how you observe yourself is of the highest importance. This observation of yourself is not isolating yourself from the world. Please do understand this. You are the world. The world in which you are born, in which you are educated, the family, the social, psychological structure of the society about you, the economic conditions in which you live, which shapes your mind, your thought, your feeling. So you as a human being have to understand this. And in the process of understanding, in the very act of understanding, the new is born. So, how do you observe yourself? What is observation? And what do you observe? And who is the observer? You follow my question? You have to observe. Obviously, that is essential. You have to see. Because when you see, you begin to care. You understand? If you see the dirty road, if you really see the starvation, the poverty, the depredation, the corruption in this country, if you really saw it, you would kill it. You would act, but you don't care because you don't see. And when you do see, you want some social action to take place, and therefore you wait. So, to see is to care. To observe is to love. I am using the word love totally as a total thing, not divine love and sexual love, personal love, those are all mere ideas. We are not dealing with ideas. We are dealing with fact. If you observe a dog, then you will begin to love that dog. If you observe your children, then you will begin to love those children. Not your particular children, children. Then you will watch. You will watch intensely, completely, when they are sleeping, waking, crying, being naughty, doing things, then you will watch. So in the same way, when you observe yourself, you will care. You understand? And now you begin to understand. I hope I'm making myself. You will care what you observe. Therefore, you will not condemn what you see. You following? You will say, I'm ugly, I'm beautiful, I am this, I am that. You won't say that. Because then you will care what you're watching. Therefore, when you watch, when you so observe, then you will see that you are observing without condemning, without bringing all the past experience into your mind, which either accepts or denies what you observe. You're falling over. You see, sir, we don't know what it means to love. We don't. We beget children, we are married, we have families, but we don't know what it means to love. If we loved, if there was love, care, then we'll find ways and means to fill the stomach of the poor, build houses, do something so drastically independent of these ugly politicians with their words. We don't know what it means to love. And love cannot come to you if you do not understand yourself. And that is the only solution in the world, to care profoundly. So, to understand yourself, there must be no authority. The authority of a memory, of a previous observation. You understand? Well, look, when you observe a child whom you love, if you love at all, and that implies a tremendous thing to love somebody, which means to care. When you observe a child, what is happening? You watch. If you care, you don't condemn, you watch. You don't push him, you don't direct him, you don't say this is right, this is wrong. You want to find out about the child, what he feels, what he thinks. You establish a relationship, a sensitive relationship with the child. Because you care, you love. That he must have the right education. That he must be brought up entirely different from this rotten education. Not merely live for a job and die in a job. So in that same extraordinarily sensitive observation which comes with care, you watch yourself. Now, as I said, to watch yourself without authority, watch yourself without the previous knowledge of what you have observed and learned. You are following this, or is this too difficult? Look, if I observe myself from what I have learned from my previous observation, I'm not observing. I'm merely observing from the experience which I had yesterday. And that experience is going to dictate how I shall observe. Therefore, it prevents me from observing. You got it? If you observe your child who has been naughty yesterday, and with that knowledge you observe him today, you're not observing him. That knowledge is going to dictate how you observe him today. You understand? That previous knowledge becomes your authority. That knowledge is the tradition. What the guru, what the saints, what the society has said. With that you observe, and that which is not observation at all. And if you are really interested to observe, and therefore really care, then all the tradition, all the authority of yesterday or 10,000 yesterdays drop away from you. Then you are observing, every minute watching, listening. Because you care, you have this feeling of care, affection, love. Sir, these are not ideas. Don't nod your heads in agreement. These are your life we are talking about, not my life. Your life which is so torn apart, which has no meaning anymore. Hectic about with so many anxieties, fears. So, a mind that is observing itself, watching the words, the gestures, the ideas, the feelings, the reactions, putting up with insults, inviting flattery. As you begin to observe yourself, you will see that all authority as tradition, as what people will say, won't say, all authority of the guru, of the book, comes to a complete end. Because then you become a light to yourself. And that is absolutely essential. Because nobody can give you truth. Nobody can point it out to you. Because truth is not something that's static. It's a living thing. A thing that is moving, swift. It's not a word. And to find that your mind must be equally swift, equally without a word. And so you will find, if you really care and therefore observe, you will find out of that observation comes freedom.
The third extract is from the second discussion in Ojai 1976 and is titled Right Action Needs Care.
If one's action is based on the past, then I am living in the past. Living in the past, one meets the present and modifies the present and creates a future. Right? One lives according to a principle, established either through pleasure, or through compulsion, or through environmental influence, or through through ignorance. One projects from the past a principle, which is what should be. And one tries to live according to what should be. Right? This is what is happening in our daily life. I must not be angry. I must be this. I must not do that. I wish it didn't happen that way. So we are always living in the past, meeting the present, and modifying the present, and that we call action. Right? And in that process, action is never complete. Right? Are we meeting each other? At least this one thing. One has had an experience, and that experience, either pleasurable or dangerous or distasteful, and according to that experience, one tries to live. And meets the present, doesn't understand the present, becomes confused in the present, and creates a future confusion. Right? Do we see this in our life? Right? May we go on from there? We are trying to find out what is correct, right, accurate action. Accurate means care, attention. Otherwise you cannot be accurate. Right? If you want to measure something, you must pay tremendous attention to it. Right? Otherwise you will not measure correctly. So, to act correctly, you must give to action great attention. Right? But you cannot give great attention to action if there is an idea which is established in the future. Or you are, say, I have a measure of my own and I'm going to measure accurately something else. So, to find out correct action, right action, accurate action, there must be care. Right? Is that clear? Please, this is a dialogue. Care. Do you care? Care. Love. Committed to find out what is right action, or is it just theory? Care. You care as the mother cares for the little baby, you understand? Wakes up in the middle of the night and spends day after day, month caring. Do you so infinitely care to find out what is right action? You understand, sir? We know a man, he was a high judge, supreme, one of the great courts. One morning he woke up and he said, I'm passing judgment on people and I don't know what right judgment is. I know according to legality, I know what it means to passing judgment. But what is right, true judgment? You understand? So he called his family. This is an accurate story because I saw him. I'm not exaggerating. This is what happened. He called his family. He said, I'm going to find out what is right judgment, what is the truth in judgment. So he said, I must give up everything, give up my position, my money and family. This is, to me, tremendously important in life because I'm a judge. He gave up everything. And for 25 years, lived by himself and tried to find out what is the right judgment. And somebody brought him to one of the talks the speaker was giving, and he came to see us the next day, and he said, "You're quite right. Because what I have been doing is mesmerizing myself, thinking I have found the right action. Because I never started right from the beginning to be free from tradition. You understand? To be free from any possibility of deception. There must be no illusion in my inquiry. You follow? An illusion exists when there is a desire to arrive at the right decision. No, you don't understand. So, to find out what is correct action, you must care infinitely. If you do, then you and I can have a dialogue. But if you say, well, just, throw any old idea into the basket and pick something out of it thinking that's right action, I'm afraid we shan't meet each other. But if you are really concerned, then we can look at it. To start with, there must be freedom of inquiry, to inquire. No prejudice, no conclusion. Can you do that? Otherwise you can't inquire. Or find, through that inquiry, what is right action. That's simple, isn't it? But extremely difficult to do, because you don't want to give up your prejudices, your conclusions, your ideals. So there must be freedom not only to inquire into what is correct action, there must be freedom to pursue constantly right to the very end till you find the right action. So, to find out there must be care, there must be attention. Right? And so one has to begin by finding out what is action. Everything is action. Getting up, sitting down, walking, looking at the skies, the trees, talking, being miserable, going to the office, quarreling, violence. Everything in human relationship is action. Even in technological world, it is action.
But not my action.
Is your action different from that of another? Yes, sir, you have to inquire. Is my action, of which I am very proud, or I want to find out what is the correct action, is my action different from the action of yours? If my action is based on anger, it's like yours. If my action is based on ambition, it's like yours. Right? If my action is based on envy, it's just like any other. Only I express it in trousers, the other expresses it in knickerbockers or in something else. So there is no my action and your action. There is only action. We can't accept that easily because we think my action must be totally different from your action. Because I think I'm an individual. Am I an individual? Well, we talk, as we told the other day, individual means indivisible, not fragmented, not broken up, whole. Such a person is an individual. But most of us are fragmented, broken up, contradictory. So, I want to find out what is action. Action, not right action. I'll come to that presently. What do we mean by action? There are such varieties and multiplications of actions. So, is there an action not contradictory, not fragmented, but whole, which at any level of existence will be whole always? You understand my question? No, come. We know fragmented action, right? Are you clear on that? Right. And fragmented action must lead to conflict, broken up. So I'm asking myself as a human being, I say, is there an action which is whole, complete, not contradictory, not fragmented, not a business action, family action, artistic action, commercial action, technological action, but action as a whole? You've understood my question? So, my inquiry is not only into fragmented action, but observing the fragmented action, both outwardly and inwardly, which is the same movement. One says to oneself, is there an action which is not fragmented? That is, I do something at the office, something totally different at home. You follow? Totally different religiously and morally and so on and so on. Is there an action which is whole? The word whole means healthy. That means physically healthy. Then it also means sane, sanity. Not neurotic. Neurotic being based on some belief, conclusion, ideas, reasonable, logic, clear. That means sane. And also whole means holy, Holy, sacred. You follow, that word whole means all that. And one's mind says, I must find an action which is whole.
The fourth extract is from the second question and answer meeting at Brockwood Park in 1981 and is titled, Does Anybody Care?
What does it mean to live in this world as it is? How do we live our daily life? Actually, not theoretically, not philosophically or idealistically, but actually how do we live our daily life. If we examine it or are aware of it seriously, it's a constant battle, constant struggle, effort after effort. Even to get up in the morning is an effort. What shall we do? Comes down to that. We cannot possibly escape from it. I used to know several people who said the world is impossible to live in. And they withdrew totally, completely into some of the Himalayan mountains or into the Sierras of California and disappeared. That's merely an avoidance, an escape from reality. Or to lose oneself in a commune. Or join some guru with vast estates and get lost also in it. Those people do not obviously solve the problems of daily life or inquire into the change, into the psychological revolution of a society. They escape from all this. And if we do not escape and are actually living in this world as it is, what shall we do? Can we change our life to have no conflict at all in our life? Is that possible? Because conflict is the part of violence. This constant struggle to be something, both in the world, economically, socially, morally, and inwardly, to be something, which is the basis of our life, to struggle. Can we, as human beings living in this world, change ourselves? That is really the question. Radically, psychologically transform ourselves. Not eventually, but not admitting time. For a serious man, for really a religious mind, there is no tomorrow. This is rather hard saying, but there is no tomorrow. There is only the rich worship of today. And can we live wholly this life and actually daily transform our relationship with each other? That is the real issue. Not the world, what the world is. The world is us. One is more and more sees the actual reality that the world is us. Please, this is so. The world is you and the world is you. You are the world and the world is you. That's an obvious, terrible fact. And if we don't meet that challenge completely, that is to realize that we are the world with all its ugliness, we have contributed to all this. We are responsible for all this. What's happening in the Middle East and Africa, and all the craziness that's going on in the world, we are responsible for it. One may not actually be responsible, but our grandfathers, grandmothers, great-grandfathers have been responsible for all this. Slavery, thousands of wars, empire, the brutality of empires, of which we are a part. And if we don't feel that responsible for all this, which means responsible utterly for ourselves, what we do, what we think, how we behave, then it becomes rather hopeless. Knowing what the world is, knowing that we cannot individually, separately solve this problem of terrorism, which is the problem of governments, to see that citizens are safe, protected. They don't seem to care. If each government really concerned that its own people must be protected, there would be no wars. But apparently governments have lost sanity too. They're only thinking party politics, their own power, position, prestige, the whole game of it. So can we, not admitting time, that is tomorrow, the future, live in such a way that today is all important? So one has to become so extraordinarily alert to our reactions, to our confusion, and work like fury. On ourselves. And that's the only thing we can do, apparently. And if we don't do that, there's really no future for man. I do not know if you have not followed some of the headlines in the newspapers. They're all preparing for war. And if you are preparing for something, you are going to have it. Like preparing a good dish. And apparently, the ordinary people in the world don't seem to care. And those who are intellectually, scientifically involved in the production of war don't seem to care. They're only interested in their careers, in their jobs, in their research. And those of us who are fairly ordinary people, so-called middle class, if we don't care at all, then we are really throwing up the sponge. And the tragedy is that we don't seem to care either. We don't seem to get together, think together, work together. We are only too willing to join institutions, organizations, hoping organizations, institutions will stop wars, will stop butchering each other. They have never done it. Institutions, organizations will never stop any of this. It's the human heart and the human mind that's involved in this. Please, we're not talking rhetorically, but we are facing something really very, very, very dangerous. We have met some of the prominent people who are involved in all this. They don't care. But if we care, if our life, daily life, is lived rightly, if each one of us was aware of what we are doing daily, then I think there is some hope for the future.
The final extract in this episode is from Krishnamurti's first talk at Rajghat 1967 and is titled, "In Attention There is Care and Affection."
What takes place when you give your complete attention to look at the thing that we call violence? Violence being not only the thing that separates human beings through belief, through conditioning and so on, but also the violence that comes into being when we are seeking personal security or the security of individuality through a pattern of society and so on. Can I look at that violence with complete attention? You know, when you look at that violence with complete attention, what takes place? When you give complete attention to anything, when you're learning history, mathematics, or looking at your wife or husband completely with total attention, what takes place? I do not know if you have gone into it. Probably most of us have never given complete attention to anything. But when you do, what takes place? So what is attention? Surely, when you are giving complete attention, there is care. And you cannot care if you have no affection, no love. And when you give attention in which there is love, is there violence? You're following? Before, I have condemned violence. I have escaped from it. I have justified it. I have said it is natural. Which are all inattention. But when I give attention to what I have called violence, and in that attention there is care, love, affection, Where is there space for violence? So it is important when we are going to this question of violence to understand very deeply what is attention. Attention is not concentration. Concentration is the most stupid way of dealing with anything. When a schoolboy or a girl is forced to concentrate on the book, when he wants to look out of the window, what takes place? You want to look out of the window, and the teacher says, look at the book, concentrate. What takes place? There is a conflict, isn't there? You want to look at the beauty, or you want to casually look at the tree, or who's going by, or watch that bird sitting there cleaning itself, preening itself. And at the same time you feel you must look at the book. So what takes place? There's conflict, isn't there? You want to see there, and at the same time you want to look at the book. In that conflict, you are neither looking at the book nor looking at the tree. Whereas if you were really attentive, then you would be attentive both to everything, to the color, to the people sitting next to you, to what they are doing, how they are scratching their head, taking notes, not paying attention. You'll be aware of everything. So violence is not to be fought against, is not to be suppressed, not to be transcended, transmuted, gone above and beyond. Violence is to be looked at. And when you look at something with care, with attention, you begin to see, you begin to understand. And therefore there is no place for violence at all. It's only the inattentive, the thoughtless, the persons who are prejudiced that are violent. So, the stupid are violent. Not the man who is attentive, who looks, cares, has love. Then there is no place for violence, either in gesture, or in word, or in action.